Come one, come all to the After Dark Podcast. The podcast in which Sheriff Anthony does his best to wrangle Konrad through Westworld, one doggone episode at a time. So kick back and grab yourself some Apple Jack, or some Adam's Ale if that's your preferred poison, and get ready for these two wannabe cowboys to ramble the night away. Music was provided by the fantastic Nancy Wyatt and Jared Iscariot. Enjoy the show!
Now let the culture.
Hello, and welcome to the After Dark Podcast. My name's Anthony James, and that's Konrad.
Hello!
How are you, Konrad?
I am very well. I definitely didn't wake up an hour ago.
Which is funny, because it might make the audience think that we're recording this super early in the morning again. But we're actually at 20 past 1 in the afternoon right now.
Yeah, and listen, I can hear you at home jumping to conclusions about the way I live my life. And let me just say, it's not normal for me to stay up until 4 in the morning watching a wrestling show, but events transpired on this weekend that forced my hand. And unfortunately, Anthony's had to be very patient with me as I have slept into the afternoon for the first time definitely the first time in my 30s, possibly the first time in like 10 years, I think, that I've actually done that.
That's crazy, actually. I can't remember the last time I slept past 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
But I can remember the last time I slept till 4 a.m. So, you know, I'm right there along with you most of the time. But
yeah. Yours is like probably children related, though, which is, you know, it's like that's
not
much
all the
more
time.
selfless.
not all the time. Sometimes Mario related. But also, I will just say, it was okay that we were a bit late, Konrad, because actually I got a nice little bit of time to work on my masters, which is
lovely.
You know, causing me quickly towards losing my mind these days, but it will be finished very soon. And then I can actually get back with the family and actually like doing things for the channel because it won't be taking my mind away from it, Konrad. So that's always good.
Well, you're welcome.
yeah,
welcome
exactly,
for my lateness.
Yeah, so every time you're late now, just like, you know, take it as a positive for me. Right, guys, well, we're here to talk about episode 9, the penultimate episode of season 1. Some reveals in this one, Konrad, is all we'll say.
Some green in the book for Konrad.
If you... there has been once or twice in this season so far where I have called random characters Arnold. Sometimes I accidentally gave away the right one. Sometimes I called a different character Arnold. I think one time I called Ford's dad host. I think I called him Arnold one time. So there's been a whole load of problems going on here.
It's been misdirection though. I can't see the wood for the trees with you misnaming characters, so I just have to assume that it's all good faith mistakes and not an indication of you know, an actual character's origin.
To be honest with you, Konrad, I really don't know why. It's because this character, like, you know, we find out in this episode, obviously, that, you know, it's not like we're going to call this guy Arnold from now on. So I don't know what's wrong with me. When we did Dark, I didn't slip once.
We'll portmanteau his name into the easy-to-remember Barnold or something.
Yeah, Barnold. Although there's interesting Bernard Bernard stuff going on in this episode.
I've got that in capital letters in my notes. We'll get to that. Don't you worry about it.
Right, okay. Well, then, no further ado. Let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, let's break it down!
Okay, it starts off with Maeve pretending to be a sleep host while Bernard is working on her. Very quickly, she is the one in control of the situation.
Yes.
And she actually... There's a lot going on here, Konrad, so I'll let you talk about the aspects of the scene you want to talk about yourself.
Yeah. But
the thing that I wanted to make sure we hit on, is the fact that she reveals to Barnold that he is actually a host. So that's the second time in like 2 episodes or something, 3 episodes that this has happened. Yes.
So I'm gonna build up to the grand reveal of this scene, which is obviously how she pronounces his name. I loved when he asks Maeve what prompted the like grief and emotional response that caused her to kill New Clementine. I think he asked her, "Do you remember what recalled that?" And it does a slow zoom straight on Maeve's face with like the sound of gunshots and screaming for about 5 seconds, and then just stops and she just says no, which really made me laugh. Because it's obvious that he would like notice that, like that very pregnant pause, but made me laugh. So there's going to be a running theme, I think, in this episode where I don't understand whether Bernard, and I am going to call him that for the rest of this episode, has fully had his memory wiped as it pertains to him knowing that he is a host or not, because he doesn't understand when Maeve says whatever we are. That clearly confuses him. Yet later in the episode, when he's having a conversation with Ford about with old Clementine present, he is aware that Ford is controlling his mind. So either these things are happening at very different times, and I just haven't understood that there's a big shift in the chronology, or this conversation wakes him back up or jogs his memory again.
That's how I viewed it. I viewed this conversation as her like waking him back up. So Ford has just like wiped his memory, and he's like back, because we know that he did wipe some of his memory because he was like didn't remember being with Teresa. But now I think that Ford did actually wipe him, so he didn't know he was a host. But then immediately Maeve just says, you're one of me, you're one of us,
Yes. So it's that's interesting. Maeve freezes Bernard, and no one notices. Once again, supporting my theory that these glass walls serve absolutely no purpose because no one seems to bat an eyelid. And then, we're getting to it now. She calls him Bernard. That is vindication for Konrad.
It is, yes. Unfortunately, it is vindication. I just want to say something, right? What's behind the idea of letting her call him Bernard? Like, surely Anthony Hopkins, he's Welsh, I suppose. Maybe they say Bernard.
Yeah, he's also like a classically trained actor as well. So he puts a little bit of extra mustard on every name that he pronounces.
Yeah, a bit of vinegar.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Like, this is really strange. I like that she called him Bernard because it gives us a bit of comedy.
Yeah,
but I don't really get why they let her do that.
I think it's like, if I'm being serious, I think it's probably to represent that she is like stripping away the kind of affectations of his character. Not to say Bernard is, a more classy version of the name Bernard, but I think maybe it's designed to do something like that, strip away all these trappings of success around you, and you're just some dude called Bernard who it just follows instruction.
Maybe I think there's also a way like Tandy Way Newton on the set just saying, I would say Bernard. Like, can I not just say Bernard? And
I would say Bernard as well, Tandy Way. Like, I'm with you right there. Like, this Bernard nonsense has gone on too long, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't agree with you. I think Bernard is a far better. But I will say, okay, I'm with them on the Bernard thing. I'm not with them on the Graham thing. Any American listeners here? It's Graham.
Do they say Graham?
Not Graham. Yeah. Not Graham. I thought it was like graham crackers, you know what I mean? It's even like when Graham Norton goes over and goes on like a chat show over there, they call him Graham Norton.
Outrageous. I mean, that's just wrong. Like, his name is clearly pronounced Graham. Like, he's very, like, even if you would default to, Graham as the style of pronunciation. Now, I struggle as listeners of these podcasts will be well aware with the Anthony distinction. I go back and forth pretty much on a daily basis with my pronunciation of that.
Yeah, actually, that's funny. There's a funny story about that. My wife, during our wedding, so she always said Anthony as well, Anthony,
yeah.
and I just joke with her sometimes because at one point in our wedding, when she had to say my name, she said Anthony, not Anthony, and so I joke with her that we're not really married.
Yeah, she married someone with that name. Yeah, I mean, that's a rom-com in the making, surely, like some kind of legal loophole that you fall into and you have to...
Yeah, it's legal. That's the Shyamalan twist.
Yeah.
And yes, I do say Shyamalan as a joke. I will continue saying that, even though I always get corrected.
Yeah, we did it. I did it in the last movie podcast as well. Like, it's a great gag, and it's going to keep on coming back.
Okay, all right. So that's pretty much everything from the scene. Anything we missed, guys, let us know. Now I've got a question to ask here, actually, Konrad. So
go on.
Every single time... So William has a bit of rag in his mouth here to gag him. Every time I see this in a film, I always think, why can't they just spit it out? And Emma tried to explain to me like it's something about like hooking it around the back of your teeth, like when you're getting a mold done in the dentist. You get it to a certain part of your mouth where your tongue can't get it out. But I don't understand the size of this thing. It was so immersion breaking for me. I was like, just spit it out of your mouth, William.
Yeah, I've never really thought about it, but I guess I feel like I could get a rag out of my mouth with my tongue. unless it was like literally overstuffed to the point of
Yeah, that's the thing. So small here. It's so small.
I mean, what I normally see, and when I think about it, is you get the rag stuffed in your mouth, and then you get the old tie around as well, so you can't spit it out. Like, you have to double up. I feel like, I mean, on one hand, Logan is very clearly presented as incompetent in most things that he does. So, I mean, this is consistent with everything else that we've seen him do. On the other, I feel like William isn't putting in much effort to help himself.
Yeah, William is just like, he doesn't want to talk to Logan, so he's just like keeping it in his mouth.
Like, this benefits me.
Yeah, it benefits me. I don't have to talk to him this way. But basically, what transpires is Logan's talking about how he can't believe how engrossed William has got with this park. And to be honest with you, I can't either. He's got very engrossed with it. He's in love with Dolores. There's a moment where Logan sort of goes over to Dolores, and it's almost like he's saying like, okay, I have to do this. I have to show you that you're not that this is just a game or whatever. And I'm going to be honest with you. We see what happens later, Konrad. But what I took from this when I first watched it is that he was implying that he was going to sexually abuse, we'll say, Dolores.
Yeah, I think it was definitely implied that it was going to go one or two ways. Either he was gonna do something violent to her, or do something sexual to her, or some mixture of the two. I'm never glad to see Logan in this show because he's a piece of shit. I did find his Hand of the King style lapel badge that he had, and the fact that he didn't know whether he was a major or a general, quite funny. Because how does he get that rank? The Confederados in this show are just presented as the most fucking lackadaisical organization ever. Like, they captured this guy within a week. He's a general. Like with no military experience whatsoever.
Yeah, well, beginner's luck, I suppose. But he's high up. They all listen to him now. Not a very good leader, though. So it wasn't his leadership skills which got him there, I would say. Because what happens later on to his fellow Confederados is not very nice.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But I think, so the one thing I really want to highlight in this scene, and to be honest, this isn't some example of my amazing insight, because it's literally explained verbally in the scene seconds after I thought it. But I do think it was interesting I think it's telling, that William at no point has actually asked Dolores what she wants. Like, he wants to get her out because of what she means to him, and hasn't really explained it to her, and she kind of responds rejecting both of them, basically saying, well, you just want to get me out of here because you think the outside world is going to be so much better for me, but have you actually stopped to consider what I want? And I think we're seeing a very subtle shift in, actually it's not even that subtle anymore, but we're seeing a very definite shift in William's character, which I'm very much here for.
Yeah, it's also what we've seen. We've discussed before, Konrad, in terms of William thinks he's being the great guy.
Yeah.
But really, Dolores is still just filling a role for him. So he's still, she's still a side character in his story. And here is Dolores sort of taking the bull by the horns and saying, no, actually, if you all want to come here, why would I want to leave? And also, it also shows Logan actually that she is able to broach the subjects that she shouldn't be able to. Like, she can talk about outside of the park. She can talk about So that's where he calls her a little screwy, I think. So that's sort of there as well.
I was kind of meta analyzing this as well, and thinking if William does end up becoming the Man in Black, which I'm more or less completely convinced of by the end of this episode because of stuff that we see later. Based on the story that the Man in Black told to Teddy in the last episode, where he went and killed, I think he said it was Tandy Way Newton, it was Maeve and her daughter, was the first time he'd kind of willfully killed someone just to see how it felt. Then that means that was the first time he's ever kind of like killed anyone in anger. Obviously we know he's like shot Confederados and stuff like that, but that was sort of self-defense really. Which I guess means Logan isn't dying by his hand, which is annoying. Because it does seem likely, but if that was the first time he'd sort of killed in anger, and that was when he was an old man, I don't know what's happening to Logan.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it was fully that it was... I think it was just that he did the most heinous thing that he could possibly think of. Now, I will say, that would make a really interesting thing that happened 30 years ago, if your theory about the timeline is correct, because the idea that the big incident that happened is that actually one of the guests killed another guest. That would be really interesting.
I mean,
that's not really what you want to happen.
That might happen. There have been murders at Disneyland before. You know, it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Bernard now is going on a sort of trip through Ford's office, getting data, doing a little bit of reconnaissance. And he eventually gets Ford down into the cold storage place amongst the dead, or they're not really dead, I suppose, as Bernard says. Brings out old Clementine.
Yes.
I
love the revelation that they didn't bother sorting a code out before retiring her. I 100% buy that. Like, given this absolute shit show of an operation they're running here, they're like, this one knows kung fu and is really violent. Should we maybe like get rid of that before we retire? And they're like, nah, just chuck her in the pile.
Yeah, no, I do, and I do appreciate Bernard as well that he put a cloak on her. He put a jacket on her. Like, good on him. Yeah. So this is sort of starts a bit of a storyline here that goes throughout the episode back and forth. Yeah, and it's Bernard going into his memories. Ironically, we are both going to be watching the film Reminiscence this weekend. So this is sort of a little precursor to that, I think. So he's going through his memories, and he wants to sort of experience everything, because he's convinced. I think that he's hearing sort of Arnold in his mind the same way other hosts are, and he's convinced that Arnold built him, and therefore, if he goes back far enough, he'll meet Arnold. And
wants to meet his creator and ask him, why, basically, get some sense of why he exists, basically. And I will say now, and I'm probably going to say this throughout this episode, I love the way this episode plays with chronology. It's very deliberately, very confusingly edited, so you're always kind of not sure where you are, like what time you're in. And I think that's a really, really smart way to get the audience to start questioning, the chronology of the events they're seeing, because we've already seen them play with it a bit. But the impression I get from this episode is that it's all a big jumble, as it would be for the hosts.
Yeah, exactly, as well. Because there's also things like, because when we see the memories and stuff, or they go between, it's like they are experiencing it again as if it's the first time. So it's really interesting in terms of the timelines as well, because it always implies that they can change things, but they can't. It's just their memories, so it's interesting. Okay, so he goes into his memories. Out of this first sort of lot of memories that they do here, there's only one I wanted to sort of point out, and that was Elsie.
Yeah,
Elsie confirmed Bernard attacked her, and I think that is a point for you on the Matrix.
Yeah, I have said before, though, I reckon Elsie's still alive, just because I subscribe to the movie notion that if you don't literally see someone die, they're normally not dead. So
we had a little clue to that as well in this episode, I will say.
Did we?
The older Hemsworth saw her sort of on the map, and then he went out to look for her and got caught by
you're right.
Americans.
Yep, you're right. So, yes. So I'm pretty sure she's still alive. Because putting someone in a sleeper hold, if Bernard is programmed to bash people's heads in when he wants to kill them, then why wouldn't he just bash Elsie's head in? Like,
it's a sleeper hold, not a killer hold.
Exactly. It can be deadly if you want it to be, but he presumably didn't make it so. But yes, that was the one I focused in on as well. A lot of I can't actually remember if it's in this part or not, but a lot of returning to the idea of his son throughout this.
That's throughout,
which was really beautiful, I thought. By the end of the episode, the direction that goes in, I think, is kind of dovetailing brilliantly with Jeffrey Wright's performance to produce this quite sort of beautiful moment for Bernard's character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was lovely too. Okay, so plenty more Bernard to come, but he's sort of on the floor now. It's sort of taken a lot out of him. Was there anything post this first memory scene which that was of note to you? If not, we can just move on to the Logan and William.
I don't think so. I haven't got any notes on it, so I think I just took the Elsie stuff from it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff between these two that you sort of forget which point it was at. You just sort of take it all in. Okay, so next up, we get a scene with Logan and William.
Yes.
In which Logan is almost trying to snap William out of this funk, saying like, have you forgotten about my sister? And he, have forgotten about the real world? And he takes the photograph out. Now, yes. Konrad, I'll not say any more about this. The photograph. Do you recognize this?
I'm gonna say 3 words here. That's a bingo. For Konrad. That was, as soon as I saw that, I was like, count it. That's going on the board. That's actually a couple of theories that I've just given myself as correct here. So one of them might actually. We can argue about it later, but it seems like one of those ones that maybe won't get proven to be correct. But I've got the photo was planted at the ranch by Ed Harris. The girl in the photo was related to Ed Harris in some way. And here we go. The photo from the Abernathy Ranch appears here, showing William's fiance at this point. Come.
You're marking them right because you're just assuming at this point that your William Man in Black theory is correct.
Come on! That is 100. If they turn around in the next episode, and was like, actually, the Man in Black was Teddy all along. I'm just like, no, not having that. That's William, 100%.
The thing is, even if the Man in Black turned out to be Logan, then it would still be related, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be. That's true. So. I did myself a favour by not having that William to Man in Black theory earlier on, so I was just writing Ed Harris. So it's correct, regardless of who it turns out to be. But yes, in my mind, this is as close to confirmation of William turning into the Man in Black as we've gotten so far.
Okay, interesting. So I thought, I knew there was going to be a couple of theories chalked off there. Personally, I couldn't remember if that reveal was in this season or not. It makes sense. So I think everything's building to something, Konrad. Anyway, we'll find out. And the next episode is actually an hour and a half long. Would you believe?
Oh wow, feature length
episode for the last one.
I hope Yul Brynner's in that one. I think Yul Brynner's dead actually, but he was the bad guy in the original Westworld, and I'm still waiting for a CGI Yul Brynner to show up in this show somewhere. I
think that there is. I think we might have missed it. I think there's a particular sort of homage to him with a host dressed up like his character somewhere or something like that. You know
I think it was when Bernard was going through that 1970s office looking area. There was a mannequin as a black cowboy.
Yeah, that could have been it. Okay, so Logan then also, just to sort of try really hard to wake up William, actually opens up Dolores' stomach.
Yeah.
And we see all the mechanical workings inside.
So I actually thought Dolores was dead here. I was quite surprised that I didn't see her getting done like that. Obviously, she can get cycled back in. But the big... There's sort of a 1-2 punch here, because obviously... Dolores gets cut open, which is oh shit, Dolores is, I didn't see her character getting done like that. But then she's full of servos and gears, which more or less to me confirmed both that she is a super old host and that this is in the past, because we know that this sort of form of host, where it was much more mechanical, was too expensive and complex to maintain. So they were replaced by the fleshy kind.
True, but we also do know that even Dolores... let's just assume you're correct here, present day, is the same host as she's always been. So it's not like she's upgraded to be the fleshy kind. I believe that the old hosts that are still in the park still have that mechanics inside.
Oh, okay. I had assumed that when they said, we've gotten rid of this kind of thing, they had re-engineered all of the old hosts to be the fleshy type as well.
It's kind of like when in 20 years when most people are driving electric cars, there's still going to be 1 or 2 diesel ones about,
Okay, fine. But I mean, I still take this... even knowing that, I still take the fact that they very explicitly said she's full of servos and gears as kind of a confirmation that this is happening in the past, just because that they have so clearly tied the idea of the mechanical hosts to a sort of golden age a long time ago.
I know exactly what you mean. It is sort of a hinting in that direction. Not to sort of hint any more in that direction, but I will say the one that would speak more to me in that regard, because we do know Dolores is an old host, no matter what time she's in. Yeah. But the one that would speak more to me is later on, whenever Logan wakes up and all the body parts are everywhere, there is servos and gears and stuff in one of the legs of a random person. So that would also sort of lend credence to that. But yeah, so Dolores is told by William, run, I'll find you. And she just starts killing people and runs off.
Cuts Logan, which seems like a pretty big deal.
That is a big deal. And actually, I'm interested to see how Logan reacts to that, because I think if the Man in Black was cut by one, actually, maybe has he been cut by one?
No, but I mean... They're getting pretty froggy. The host,
I would imagine if
they're bashing people in the head, and it's you're not really supposed to do any permanent damage. And I'm not a doctor, but hitting someone's head against a rock is definitely going to do some permanent damage.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if the Man in Black was cut on the face like Logan was, the Man in Black I think would be yes, this is great.
Finally, I've got a cool scar.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so last thing I wanted to mention here, when she runs out into the foresty area, this is the part which I want to sort of get your thoughts on. She looks down on her stomach, and she no longer is cut.
Yes.
Right?
But she's not wearing the blue dress. That's something we need to come back to later in the episode.
No, she's not wearing the blue dress.
Yes.
So what do you take from it at this point? When or what is this Dolores at this point?
So I think we're dealing. Well, I've put it down as 3 timelines. I actually don't think it is 3 timelines. I think you've got. No, it is 3 timelines. Actually, thinking about it, so you've got Blue Dress Dolores, which is a long, long time ago, like sort of origin of the park kind of Dolores. You've got this kind of white shirt Dolores, who did this stuff with William 30 odd years ago, whenever William first came to the park. And then you've got present day Dolores, who is repeating this storyline, but without William there, who eventually ends up with the Man in Black. So there's actually 3 separate timelines for Dolores, and it just so happens that 2 of them, the one with William 30 years ago and the one in the present day, look very similar because she is literally retracing the steps of that storyline.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. There is a lot more I want to talk about in terms of that later on when certain reveals are made, but I think that's a great position to sort of be in at this point. But there is definitely stuff going on with these timelines.
Or she just has a mutant healing factor.
Yeah, well, there is that case as well, because we were talking about reminiscence.
Yeah,
Hugh Jackman. You never know.
Exactly. Yeah, she might be Wolverine. Who knows?
Yeah. Okay, but Metal Inside as well. But anyway, so what I would say, yeah, that would be great. Like, this is just an X-Men origin. I would say, actually, last thing I want to say here, whatever this new uninjured Dolores is, right? Wherever she is here, it's we don't actually. From my opinion, we don't actually see the one who had the cut in the stomach, or Logan cut her stomach. We don't actually see her again in this episode.
No, I assume she's probably dead.
She just probably died in the forest.
Yeah, or at the very least, William is going to find her on death's door, and maybe they'll have a heartfelt departure, where he's like, "I'll find you," and she's like, "Find yourself first." And then she dies.
Yeah. Jeez, you should write for this show. That was perfect.
Give me a call, Jonathan Nolan and others. I can't remember who else writes.
I think I'm sure there's people already screaming at the screen here, Konrad, for the last however many minutes we've been talking, randomly mentioning Reminiscence. I'm pretty sure Reminiscence was created by the creators of Westworld.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because people are probably like, it's the same people. Yeah, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. All right, okay. So we're around the fire now with Hector's gang.
Yeah.
Maeve gets a snake lady.
Maeve gets, I mean, there's not really anything interesting between them, to be honest. This scene gets interesting when Maeve turns up and talking about 1-2 punches, makes fun of the size of his penis and then hit the content of his backstory, which, as far as emasculations goes, you can't really get much better than that. That's like, you're sexually inadequate and your story is uninteresting. Fuck off, Hector.
Yeah, I think there is an interesting like theme here though, in this scene. Obviously, what happens here is that Maeve says to Hector, this is what's going to happen. I know the future, and sort of proves to him that she knows. Okay?
Yeah.
And then sort of what actually happens is they all argue around who's going to open the safe or whatever, and then there's gunfire. Everyone shoots each other, and Hector is meant to get killed by the snake lady.
Yeah.
But they do mention her name here, but I can't remember it. So Hector is meant to get killed by her. Now Maeve tells him this is going to happen, and then she kills the snake lady. So it leads to him. Now this is the really cool like thematic thing in this show. The idea of being on a loop and the idea of having your ending known. And then all of a sudden, someone comes and diverts you from it, and now Hector's in unknown territory.
Yes.
So from here on out, this is almost like the start of him maybe being able to go down that maze route of being able to maybe find and look for consciousness, because he's now off the path. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I still don't really understand why Maeve seeks out Hector specifically. I mean, I guess we know that the Snake Lady was able to give the Man in Black guidance as to the labyrinth, so maybe that's why she sought him out as well. But Maeve certainly seems to have a kind of connection with Hector. Not, obviously it's a sexual one, but it's also, I feel like there's something more to it as well. I will say that I love the moment where Hector kind of drops his line. He's supposed to the snake lady's supposed to say "you damn fool," and he's supposed to respond, and they both draw on each other and kill each other. And he just doesn't say anything, but then the snake lady carries on like it's a stage play, and she just has to pretend he hasn't forgotten his line. And we get some great, lovely shots of the kind of fatalistic end of the world stuff here as Maeve and Hector engage in coitus in silhouette as the world burns around them, which I feel like is probably a metaphor for. To be honest.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I would not, even if I knew the pain I was feeling wasn't real, I probably would not want to be burnt alive.
No, I feel like there were definitely easier ways of them to get back to the home base than burning themselves alive.
Yeah, I kind of feel Maeve has maybe turned off her pain, whereas not for Hector. Like this, she's just testing his loyalty.
Yeah.
Also, I think I know kind of maybe why she chose Hector, because the moment whenever she went up close to him, and he had the knife on her belly.
Yeah.
And then they kissed, and that sort of jogged a memory of him in a memory of a previous life, because she had done that to him before. Maybe she knew that she had to have obviously someone with skills of he wants to have some sort of mercenary man, but also she needed to have someone who she could jog the memory of in terms of bringing them back to start them on this path. So maybe that's why. Maybe because she had that little history with him.
Yeah, I guess it's. In that light, it would either be him or her daughter, but her daughter seems like she's probably been retired, so...
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Okay, so we'll catch up with them later. William's set free by Logan, and wouldn't you know, they have a lovely hug. They share a cuddle, which I was, and I think some of the Confederados are like, you...
Yeah, there is definitely some cheers here, which is, fair enough. The Confederados, they might be racists, but they know friendship when they see it, and that's that's important. I'll be honest. In this scene, I was immediately, as soon as he let William go, when William was like, "Yeah, you're right," I was like, "Logan, you're an idiot." And then and then when they hugged each other, and William didn't smash the bottle across his face, I was like, "Oh, maybe," but. Yeah, it doesn't take that long for William's plan to reveal itself. I do also like the "you will never be the hero" line in the context of where I think William is going, because if what I think is correct, he will not be the hero. He will be the opposite of that, I think.
Okay, interesting. Back with Teddy.
Yeah.
And Tallulah? Or is that the name of the actress? I don't know, actually. I think this actress is called Tallulah.
Tallulah sounds like a Western lady's name.
Let's go with Tallulah.
Sure.
Let's go with Tallulah. So, Teddy's got an arrow at his shoulder, and he looks a bit shocked by it. Basically, the interesting part of this is, right, he has the Wyatt flashbacks again, and we do get the line.
Increase the counter by one. Increase it by one. We got strange ideas again.
Yeah. So he came back with some strange ideas.
Yep.
So we've got it. But there's some interesting stuff that goes on in this time, and I'm not going to really say much more. Did you notice anything?
Okay, well, so you get Teddy shooting up Dolores' hometown this time, Teddy and Wyatt together.
Well, the place she calls home.
Yeah.
I'm not... Yeah.
But it's weird that both he and Dolores are having visions of doing the same thing. Which makes me think neither of them actually did it, and they're experiencing a shared memory implanted in their brains by something or someone else. That's kind of where I'm going with that at the moment. The only other thing I really noticed in this opening part of this scene is that the sound of that Wyatt guy snapping off the bone in someone's arm was quite visceral.
Oh yeah, that Wyatt follower. Oh yeah, they also said that Wyatt is not returned yet. So whenever Wyatt returns, and also so that implies maybe that there actually isn't a Wyatt yet. Maybe that maybe
he's just going to turn out to be some guy. I know he is. It's just gonna.
They keep showing us images of someone who look like who they're implying is Wyatt, don't they?
The guy they keep showing me, it's not him, but he looks like the old dad character from M. Night Shyamalan's The Village, which is who I'm expecting it to be when we eventually get him.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, so I'm going to... I'm really torn here, Konrad. There seems to be something that you've missed. If maybe you've missed it, maybe you haven't, I don't know.
Yeah?
I'm really torn as to whether to talk about it.
I'm trying to think what... I don't...
In the Wyatt flashback, there's something you've missed. How do you feel?
What, that he shoots... Not that he shoots Tallulah, or whatever her name is.
I don't think that was her, actually, in the flashback. But,
okay.
But no. There's something else huge that you've missed.
I can't think what it was. I was taking quite a lot of notes during this bit, so it's possible I was looking down at my notes while this was going on. I've just missed it.
Okay, so you're usually very, very good at spotting this type of thing. I'm just going to say it. We're one episode away from the end of the season. I'm just going to say it.
Okay.
Sorry, audience. I'm just going to say it because I think it's so cool and I want to hear Konrad's reaction to it. This is a genuine reaction now because I'm going to put a picture on the screen. What's the difference between this Teddy in the screenshot, which is him in his sort of little blue thing and all, and this one? So Teddy in these flashes has a costume change.
Yes. Yeah. So he goes from his like Union outfit to his.
Every single time we've seen the flashback before, he's been wearing a Union outfit.
Oh,
and he's been shooting up the town.
of course, yeah. I actually didn't notice that.
He's dressed like the sheriff.
Yeah, I did not notice that. That is interesting. So that definitely plays into my 3 timeline kind of idea then, I guess. Like, if there's a memory of him doing this, like shooting up the town as a Union soldier with Wyatt, and then another memory of him kind of shooting it up as a sheriff, and then, obviously, Teddy where he is now. I think. Yeah, that would make sense, right?
Yeah, I think that's consistent. My mind also went to maybe potentially this is like him sort of remembering the actual events rather than the events that he's been put into his mind as his backstory.
Yeah,
so maybe it's like taking the veil of this fake story away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is true. Because the Wyatt stuff we know has only recently been created, so it's entirely possible that that's all just been stuffed into his head, and he's conflating events that actually happened with the new Wyatt narrative. I need to go back and rewatch that then and see if they're actually shot slightly differently, or if there's any other clues apart from the costume change as to when we're experiencing something that's maybe real versus something that's been kind of planted in his brain. But it's something that this episode and this series in general has done very well is this idea of questioning, what is real, what is not real, what is actually the difference between them, and this is another great example of that.
Yeah, and like just before we move on to the next bit is another thing which maybe sort of to look out for or to theorize about between now and the next episode is when it changes to him wearing the sheriff's outfit, we no longer see that guy who they're implying is Noah. Noah. This is not dark. is Wyatt. You know what's really funny for the audience? You know why I made that connection in my mind?
Yeah.
No one will ever know this unless I tell you. Weirdly, we have like little animal dolls that my mother gave to my children when they were born, and my oldest son has one that is a fox, and it's called Wyatt. And my youngest son has a little dog that's called Noah.
Amazing.
So I actually made the connection between those two characters, one from Dark, one from Westworld, through my children's toys.
That fox has got some strange ideas.
Yeah, he camps every morning. He comes out of the bedroom with some strange ideas.
I tell you what, if Mark Vashke turns up as Wyatt in this,
that would be great.
I'm on board with that. That's great.
But we don't see Wyatt. Whenever it changes to be this Sheriff Teddy, we don't actually see Wyatt in this incarnation of the memory.
No, yeah. So I think I like that idea that this is kind of lifting the veil on a previous memory that they've kind of just draped this facade of the Wyatt slaughter over because of the slaughter or whatever this town is called actually already exists. And it is confusing because, as I say, the fact that Dolores and Teddy are both imagining shooting up this town in their non-Wyatt kind of storyline get-up makes me think, was it actually, like, is there another veil to be lifted here, or did one of them actually do this, or did they both do it and it's just at different times? It's kind of up in the air in my head at the moment as to which part of that is actually true.
Well, it's interesting, I never thought this the first time I watched it, and obviously I know what happened, so I'm not even saying this is necessarily correct, but in watching this, whenever Tallulah was talking to him after whenever she was going to kill him, and she was saying, Wyatt has not come back yet, and then he was sort of, and she said maybe next, and saying to Teddy, you're not ready yet, maybe next cycle. It almost, like, you could actually read it that Teddy could potentially be Wyatt, but he has to have the correct mindset to be Wyatt, and this time around he's not that,
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I think it's the fact that they haven't, this is, again, it's a bit meta, but the fact they haven't really introduced us to Wyatt, plus the fact that we know that they're starting to play around with the idea of, characters becoming other characters and stuff, makes me think that the introduction of Wyatt as a character is almost guaranteed to be anticlimactic now, because if he's just a guy who's evil, it's going to be like, okay, well, that's fine, but in the context of, like, the show, that's pretty boring for him to just be like, I'm some crazy cult leader. Whereas if it does turn out that, Teddy is going to turn into Wyatt, that's a far more interesting idea. Okay,
awesome. All right, so other thing of note in that scene is whenever she mentions the town or the chapel or something buried in sand, the man in black's eyes like prick up,
Yeah.
And that's all he wanted. He's went this whole way through this whole storyline now just because he wants the next crumb. He wants the next crumb on the trail to go find somewhere else.
He wants to know where the lift is in that town, basically.
Yeah. Now, I don't know about you, Konrad, but if I woke up and I had a noose around my neck and then a knife and a horse attached to the rope, I would be shitting myself.
Yeah, so this is like classic Western stuff right here. Also, I will say, increase the Teddy counter by 1 as well. So we get the strange ideas and the Teddy deaths bumping up by 1 in one scene, which is it's been a long time, actually. Like, Teddy
thrown out for the books, yeah.
Yeah. And this is also the scene, or prior scene, where she bashes his head against a rock, and I was like, that feels like it could be quite dangerous to do to a human, to be honest. But whatever, it's a TV show. People bash each other's heads all the time, and they're fine. Man in Black wakes up, and we get the good old-fashioned rope tossed over a branch and tied to a horse situation. He manages to deal with it about as well as he could. But it was very tense, and I love the little nods to old kind of Western tropes like this. That really the only Western stuff we're getting at the moment is Man in Black related. So I'm glad to see it still here.
Yeah, I agree. I think the tactic for me would definitely be, actually, there's 2 tactics. First would be I would either just go quickly for the knife as quick as possible. I wouldn't be sneaking like him. I think there's more chance of something going wrong. If you have to just go and get it, you're like 6 feet away from it. I'd just go and get it straight away. The other thing you could do is, if you want to do a sneaky thing, for me, the sneaky thing to do would be to go and sneakily tie the rope around the tree so that even if the horse runs, it won't actually lift you.
Yeah, you've got to think of like the physics of the situation. Like, do a couple of laps around that tree, and then the pulley's not going to do anything, and you can take all the time in the world to get the knife out of Teddy's body. But he thinks on his feet, and he stays breathing as a result. So it's a credit to the Man in Black where it's due.
Yeah, and just in time. She couldn't have arrived 5 minutes earlier, but just in time.
Yeah,
Charlotte shows up. And interrupts him, as the Man in Black says, and basically tells him that Teresa's dead. So this really does show you now how important the Man in Black is to this party.
He has a relationship with the board and with Teresa, which to me is like, again, well, I'm like almost certain that William is the Man in Black at this point, but this pushed me even further, where I was like, okay, well, we know that William has a relationship with the company that has a large stake in Delos? Is that what it's called?
Delos, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah. This just seems to be, going further and further towards that inevitable end point.
Yeah, I don't really think there was much, to be honest with you, much else in this scene apart from that, just that connection. Okay, so the older Hemsworth is out in for a lovely leisurely walk to try and locate Elsie. Unfortunately, he gets taken by the native Arikara, I think they call them.
Yeah.
So he gets taken. Again, not much else here. This seems to be setting up something for the future.
I thought they were going to put him over here. I thought this was going to be a moment for him to actually look like a tough guy, but instead he just gets jumped and looks like a loser.
Yeah. But, we'll see. We'll catch up with him later when he's losing. He's like... We'll get him back, I'm sure. Whether his scalp will be back in the show, I'm not sure. But he'll be back, that's for sure. Logan wakes up surrounded by the Confederado's bodies everywhere.
I honestly rewound this. I was like, wait, what? Like when did this happen? and it becomes clear soon enough. But I do feel like this is a bit of a jump for the character who's responsible for this.
Yeah, William just killed everyone and took Logan's gun too,
and cut off all their limbs as well. Like, it's a really weird. Like, he didn't just kill everyone; he killed everyone with a knife, chopping their limbs off. Like, it's very, very brutal for a guy who has previously been a little bit squeamish about violence.
Maybe it's like him. He's like it's like a message to Logan, like, I know what's inside of them, but I still want to do what I want to do, you know?
Also, we know another character who is a fan of a knife like that. is all I'm saying. Okay. Like, I mean, come on. Like, it's pretty obviously the same knife. Like, and they're very definitely drawing our attention to it.
Okay, I'll say nothing about that. Okay, moving on from there then. Clearly, obviously, the relationship of Logan and William is not very good. But
no.
Moving on, we get another Bernard scene.
Yes.
And Bernard is going through some memories. First of all, he has the memory of him and Ford with Maeve just after her daughter was killed, before she was moved to become the madam. Yeah. We also have the more important scene where we have him and Ford in the office from the very beginning of the season. Whenever Ford shows him the picture of Arnold. But obviously there's a bit of misdirection here, because we originally thought that the white guy in the middle was Arnold, but it turns out that Jeffrey Wright in the picture is not Bernard, but is in fact Arnold.
Yeah. So I mean, I was kind of scribbling away throughout this scene that I think Bernard is actually Arnold, and I arrived at it maybe like 10 seconds before they pretty much just confirm it. But yeah, he's not
Arnold though, but for all intents and purposes, he is.
Yeah. I feel this is like a wonderful scene. Like, Jeffrey Wright has been brilliant in this entire episode, but I love the kind of deliberately confusing way this is shot, like flitting in and out of the past and present to kind of capture Bernard's own kind of disorienting experience with these memories. I love the way as well that the entire thing is opened with a comparison to Maeve, who, in Maeve's case, she would rather die than experience the pain of the loss of her daughter, and that's deliberately contrasted against Bernard, who, through these experiences, or in his memories, constantly returns to the memory of his son dying, and his response to the pain of his son dying is to let it go in order to kind of self-realize. He can't be tied to that pain anymore, even though the pain is kind of what makes him real. He would rather realize who he actually is than hold on to these fake memories. And it's just this really interesting. It's this really interesting toying with the idea of memory and pain and loss that I think is. It comes to a really beautiful conclusion for Bernard, and then rapidly turns into a pretty harrowing conclusion by the end of the episode. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but yeah, I mean it's basically all just this one enormous scene that captures this brilliant journey for Bernard's character.
Yeah, exactly, and as things are revealed as well, it's putting in little flashes of Dolores as well, as she's moving through. Sort of going towards the chapel.
And we get her in white and blue as well.
White and blue, sorry?
Yeah, we get her in her blue dress and in her white white shirt doing essentially the same thing.
Yep, so she's going towards the chapel. Now, interestingly, it gives a shot of the chapel, and it is not buried, okay?
No.
Now, what's interesting about that is that at the end of this episode, when the man in black shows up, it's white shirt Dolores that he shows up to see. which would imply that that is happening at the same time that the Man in Black is in the park. So if that's in your theory, it's sort of present day. So does that mean that since the last time we saw this chapel buried to now, they've dug it up again?
Yeah, I wonder if that's what Ford was doing with his diggers and his explosions.
Maybe he was like bringing this part of the park which was buried long ago.
It's very
back
well
or something
preserved.
Like that.
To be honest, it doesn't they've done a bang up job in restoring it. If that's what he was doing.
Yeah. No, we got the best guys in. He spared no expense, and that's why the board didn't like it. Okay, what I will say is that there is some stuff going down here in terms of the Dolores. So we get a couple of shots in a row where she's walking into. Well, she goes. I love how she got into this sub-level. She goes into the confession box.
Yeah, it's like going into Shield HQ in the first Captain America movie. Like expecting her to come down to the bottom, and there's just a bunch of like World War II intelligence officers radioing Germany. But it's a great little entrance. Obviously, no one in that town ever does confession because otherwise. They'd have hosts turning up here non-stop.
Yeah, well, actually, it was interesting as well. Ford's talking about, like, sort of Arnold set up this maze or whatever to sort of try and bootstrap consciousness again, talking about that. And he also said that he had, in a particular build, he had the hosts be able to hear their own internal coding. Yes. And an internal monologue, which was sort of trying to bootstrap consciousness in that way. Now, whenever she then goes into the chapel, it says that what some of the hosts did was quite strange. And when they went into the chapel, there was a load of hosts in there, like sort of almost weeping or doing strange things. And those hosts, I think, were what Ford was implying, that was sort of the end of their journey. They didn't quite get where Dolores did, and they ended up being crazy by the end of it, and Tallulah was one of them. Actually, that's where we saw her.
Oh,
again.
I didn't actually see her in the church, but yeah, I think that there's very the way the hosts in the church are presented. It's very clearly supposed to be kind of dissonant, and there's discord amongst them. It's like an arguing congregation where no one can agree why they're there. They just know they're there for a reason, and it leads to them going insane, basically. Which is great. I mean, it's also. I wonder actually as well, like if when White Shirt Dolores goes down the lift into the corridors beneath it, there's corpses everywhere as well. So whether the implication is that some of them did make it down here and killed themselves because they weren't able to sort of conceptualize what happened, or I mean, this is obviously some kind of workshop for creating the hosts as well. So maybe it's just the passage of time has like left a bunch of host bodies like lying around or something, but it was definitely grim.
Yeah, it definitely was, and a lot darker as well than the blue dress Dolores who got there.
Yeah.
So okay, there's a couple of things that happened here. First of all, obviously we get the proper reveal that Bernard is Arnold, Arnold is Bernard, sort of weird sort of thing going on here.
Yes.
I would like to know your thoughts first of all before I give you my thoughts, because I think my thoughts here wouldn't really be a spoiler as to what is revealed. So I'll let you have a go first. When it's revealed that Arnold is the one who was interviewing Dolores in that little room in the blue dress.
Yes.
And then it also shows her moving down into there as the white shirt, as Dolores. What's your take on this whole thing? So it's sort of, when it's revealed that Bernard is Arnold, and then we have blue dressed Dolores saying, "Oh, hello, Arnold," or whatever, and it's revealing that the person who was talking to her in that little interview was actually Arnold, not Bernard. What do you take from that?
Well, so I actually don't think it was Arnold rather than Bernard. I think because at the end of it, she says she killed him.
True. But that is true. That is true. Okay.
So I think it's.
But she did say hello, Arnold. So you think?
Yeah. I think
Bernard
it's presented as Arnold. I think that is like an early build of Bernard where Ford is happy for him to know that he is a recreation of Arnold. But I think even by that point, Arnold is already dead, and this is as much an observed test of Bernard the host as it is of Dolores the hosts. That was my read of it. Maybe I've got the wrong end of the stick on that. But I think
so. I am able to disprove that if you'd like me to.
Yeah, go.
Through things we've already seen on the show. Okay, so I'm not sort of using further knowledge for this. When blue dress Dolores is walking in
Yeah.
We see Anthony Hopkins at about 35 years old.
Oh, yeah, can I just say for a second, it's good CGI, but my word, I'm in the uncanny valley on that Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah, but we then see Anthony Hopkins at around 50 years old when he actually created Bernard.
That is true. Okay, yeah. And I think you actually might hear like 30-year-old Anthony Hopkins kind of walking into a room and like having an argument with Arnold as well about something. But so it's the blue dress Dolores that Arnold is talking to.
Yeah. So do you want my like little theory? What I thought,
go on. You give me yours because I need to think that through.
Because I can't actually remember if this is I can't remember if this is the reveal or if there's actually more design. Like basically my understanding of what I've seen in this episode and the first time I saw it as well is that the maze that is created, or this like sort of journey towards consciousness, leads Dolores here over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Now, she still is going there, even though Arnold is not there anymore. So originally, she would get there, and every time she got there, Arnold would interview her and talk to her.
Yeah.
And then she would start again, and she didn't quite get consciousness that time. So she started again, and the next time she got to him, he would talk to her again. And maybe she was conscious this time. If not, he would put her back in. Eventually, Arnold died. Apparently, Dolores killed him. That's what she said.
Yeah.
And now she's sitting there alone. She's got there again. But this time, Arnold isn't there to talk to her anymore.
Yeah. Yes. I'm still trying to figure out how she knows that she killed him when she's got the blue dress, though. The chronology of that is the thing that's tripping me up here.
I don't think she said that when she had the blue dress, did she?
I think so. Because she says it to him. To Arnold. Or to Bernard. He responds.
No, I think it sort of does a weird cut where she's speaking with Arnold, and then he asks her a question, like she's experiencing the memory, and then it cuts to white shirt Dolores, and then she says the line.
Okay, maybe I just misinterpreted or didn't see which costume she was wearing when she said that. That would make So if it cuts to her wearing the white and saying "because I killed you," that would make sense then. So that is if that's the case, then it's Arnold that she's talking to, and I think your idea of her just doing this over and over again to try and seek consciousness makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and I think like the fact that it was young Anthony Hopkins confirms that this is Arnold she sees. But I think that is what I read from it. Like even the first time I saw it is like this idea, because otherwise like she's ending up in the same spot as she was every time. And also when showing the blue dress, she was also walking into the town like confused or whatever.
Yeah.
So she got to there in the similar way, obviously not the same storyline way like William wasn't about and stuff like that. In fact, you could even maybe say William wasn't about in this white shirt Dolores because she's not cut on the stomach. So,
well, I mean, the implication to me here is that she's done this dozens, maybe hundreds of times since the blue dress, Dolores, and has just sat here until someone came and found her and reset her, I guess, which is a pretty heartbreaking in and of itself, really.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting, actually. Ford must want it to happen in some way, because every time she gets reset, would he not question like why is she actually going there? Like why is she going there? You know, and
well, I mean, it speaks to what they've said previously, which is that no one actually understands how the host works. So, I mean, Ford, for all his delusions of grandeur and his ideas of himself as this kind of like benevolent creator who controls everything, I get the impression that even if he wanted to stop Dolores from seeking consciousness through these conversations with Arnold, he wouldn't be able to, because he doesn't know how to change the core coding to achieve it.
Yep. Okay. Man in Black shows up.
Yep. Not who she wanted to see.
Yeah, so we know that Man in Black was told by Tallulah about the buried, whatever you call it. So then he comes to it, and it's not buried now, it's actually a proper chapel, and he comes in, and it is white shirt Dolores there.
Yes.
Now, if your theory is correct, that would imply that this Man in Black is William, and 30 years after what happened earlier in this episode, he now shows up and finds Dolores along the same path in the chapel.
Yes.
Interesting.
So I wonder. It does make me wonder what he did to her in that first episode. Because I take that to all be happening in the same timeline. Man in Black did something to Dolores. Her dad went crazy on the Abernathy ranch. He left the photo there, and then when she was circulated back in, their paths are crossing again at this end point. I mean, I guess it could be that he just, did something horrible to her, and that was enough to kind of... We have seen other examples of hosts where trauma is enough to kind of awaken them to, other memories that they previously had. But I guess my understanding of this kind of loop, like wider loop that Dolores is on, is that she's kind of doing it anyway, regardless of whether she suffers trauma or not, or maybe she's just suffered enough trauma over the course of her career that she doesn't need any more. But I do wonder if there's any more to their meeting in the first episode, or whether it's just that was the beginning of this particular loop and this is the end of it.
Yeah, I think that's a astute observation, actually. Like, that what actually caused this present day Dolores, in your theory, to move along this path to arrive here, definitely probably had something to do with her father, Peter Abernathy, and her noticing that it was a different dad. Remember that?
Yes.
As well as that, she found the photo, which would obviously kickstart these thoughts.
And the
as
gun.
As well as that, huh?
And the gun. I don't know what happened with that gun.
That's what I was going to say. As well as that, she had a gun buried in her garden. What's that about? Interesting. Like, we know there's a gun.
Yeah.
She's now admitted to potentially killing someone. What do you think is happening here? Because is this Chekhov's gun, which we have not seen? Not only have we not seen it fired, we haven't seen it again.
Yeah, I feel like surely that's the thing that's going to kill Arnold. Like, it's gotta be. It's gotta be the thing that kills Arnold. Like, it which makes me think. So she found.
That means she kept it then. She kept it all these years.
Yeah, but I mean, we've got examples of like Maeve keeping all of her drawings of the spacemen and stuff. So there are other examples of hosts keeping things for long periods of time to kind of jog their memory. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've got to. That gun's got to come back somewhere, and as you say, we haven't even seen it again, which makes me think that it's going to come back fairly soon. Given they're not even hinting at it, they can't carry that into another season because that would be insane to be like end of season 3. Remember that gun she found in the second episode of season 1? I think that gun's going to have to be what kills Arnold. I don't know. Okay. I don't know. The thing that I'm sort of racking over in my brain is I don't know how we get from Dolores chatting away with Arnold, having the time of her life, to actually shooting him. I feel like Ford is going to have a hand in that. Because she seems to get on with Arnold and doesn't seem to have any malice towards him. So, yeah, I'm really interested to see how that all pans out.
Okay, interesting. And the last thing in the episode, which we can touch on, is that Ford knew what was going on the whole time.
Yep.
He had a backdoor into the code. I love that. He's just been sitting there the whole time.
Yeah.
And, and it's like... Well, he has had his tablet, I suppose, so it's not as... He did have access to code, so it's okay. But it's just funny, like, the idea of these men talking in a room for ages, and then all of a sudden it's like, I had a backdoor into the code. So he had a backdoor into the code of Clementine and of Bernard. And I love the idea that he, like, then Bernard's like, well, what are you doing? Like, why didn't you tell me this before we started? And he's just like, well, I wanted to see whether you would choose to be my partner again. Which made complete sense to me. Yeah,
I mean, this is one of the most monstrous things I think he's done, really, because this is his kind of like Return of the Jedi Emperor Palpatine moment, where he's just like, now witness the power of this fully armed and operational battle system,
unlimited power.
Because he's just sitting there knowing that he's gonna fuck up Bernard's whole day in about half an hour. But it's the thing that's really monstrous about this is. He allows Bernard to go on this journey of self-discovery, going through this really like emotional sequence of letting go of the memory of his dead son because it is a fake memory, in order to try and seek something greater for himself. And it's clearly very painful for him, and it's shot beautifully, and it's very emotional, and it's all just like undermined by this revelation at the end that he just doesn't care. Like, he's gone through all of that because he wanted to see if Bernard would choose to resume his role as his partner, and when it becomes clear that he won't, he makes him kill himself and wipe his sentience away, or at least that's the implication of what happened. We don't actually see it happen, so maybe the gunshot was something else, but I think it's heavily implied that Bernard is going to be wiped again by the end of this episode.
Yep. Okay, awesome. Do you want to get into the roundup then?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so IMDb rating is 9.4 for this one. Growing up again.
Yeah, I think it's becoming like a running trend now for me to just be like, every single one of these was really good. But again, I mean, this was a great episode. Lots of reveals. My one criticism of where this show has gone in the last 5 or 6 episodes is the lack of Western stuff. We don't really get any of that anymore. But I mean, it's more of a taste thing than an actual flaw in the show. I would just have liked them to still find a way to tie this into, like those kind of like Western tropes. But I understand why they can't, because they're kind of onto bigger and better things. But I still think this was a fantastic episode. We get Bernard's journey of self-realization. We get the Dolores like kind of 3 timeline stuff and the end of her loop. The Arnold reveal. We get confirmation that it's pronounced Bernard. It's just everything that we could possibly want from an episode. So I think I agree with that rating. I think this is definitely one of the best ones so far.
Yeah, awesome. I agree with you. What do you think, Konrad? Give us a list. Did you have any new theories? Actually, I don't know if you did.
So I mean, it's the 3. The last one, there's going to be some argument over, I think. But so the 3 that I got are Dolores is retracing the steps of her past storyline with William in the present day. So the kind of third storyline or third timeline idea. Then neither Teddy nor Dolores actually shot up the town they are seeing in their imagination. And the last one, there's going to be some consternation because I arrived at this about 10 minutes before it was actually confirmed by the show. But Arnold is Bernard. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay.
See what the
so I
response
think
to that
that
is.
one is concluded now. So did you give yourself green on that one?
I haven't given myself anything for that yet because, as you well know, I am not a fan, generally speaking, of awarding points for theories created in the same episode where they are confirmed. So we'll see. We'll see how we're doing. I'll keep that in the back pocket, and if the points are looking rough, I might argue for that one. But,
okay, all right, okay. Well, we'll leave that there for because even like the idea of like just saying that Bernard is Arnold or Arnold is Bernard, there's even some chat in that. You know what I mean? But yeah. I understand the feelings behind the theory. Okay, so very quickly, then we've got a couple of questions from the listeners, and then we will move on to bigger and better things for the weekend. What do you think?
Not better, surely.
No, yeah, there's nothing better than this. But I am going to the cinema to see Reminiscence, so
that could be a lot worse.
If there's something I love more than talking about films, it's actually watching films. Let's be honest.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so Lord Stannis asks, will we see Bernard again in the finale? Now, not saying never again, but in the finale. And if we do see him again, who's going to go into cold storage and find him?
I think we'll get his body, and I don't think this is the last we'll see of Bernard, purely because every other host can be cycled back into circulation when they get shot in the head. So why not Bernard? Who's going to find him?
I find that an interesting question. Who's going to find him? Because I got the impression from the way Ford was talking that he wasn't like just going to leave him there. It was like he's going to restart Bernard back to what he was. You know what I mean?
I could see I could either see him just continuing on his loop, Ford getting another 10 years out of his loop or whatever, however long he's had Bernard rolling along quite happily for, or it's going to be someone like Charlotte who's going to turn up and be like, you work for me now. I don't think it's the end of Bernard. I think maybe we'll see a body. I could see them doing something interesting where they cut between like Bernard's body on a slate and Arnold's body on a slate, and the whole episode is kind of framed around which is which and who did what to who. But that's pure speculation.
Okay, yeah. Next question from Lord Stannis says, if Dolores did kill Arnold, why do you think she did it?
I think she was ordered to do it by Ford. That's my guess. Because I just don't see Dolores at the point where she kills Arnold. Does not seem violent. She does not seem like she doesn't like him. And we've seen Ford command hosts to kill before. It just seems like it would be very... It seems like the obvious conclusion to that storyline is he and Arnold have had some kind of irrevocable difference, and Ford knows that he has to move on without Arnold, and he'll get him bumped off by old Dolores.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. And last question from Vic Disco. If your theory about a Man in Black being William is correct, then he has been reunited with Dolores. But if you're wrong, do you think that William will find her? And what will happen if he does? Well, William can find, even if Konrad's theory is correct, he can still find the Dolores from his timeline.
Yeah, I don't think the issue for William is going to be, going forward, is going to be finding Dolores. Like, I think Dolores is pretty easy to find. She's literally in, the town of Sweetwater when you turn up in the game. I think the issue for William is getting Dolores to the point where she makes him feel the way he wants to feel, and trying to capture that relationship and transpose it to the quote-unquote real world. So I think that's the dragon that William is going to be chasing for the next 30, 40 years or however much. But I took it, even if I'm not correct, I take William's infatuation with Dolores to mean that he will come back again and again and try to find different ways to have this relationship with Dolores. Some successful, some not. Some involving him shooting Teddy a bunch of times. Like, who can say?
Okay, awesome. I do have one more thing I wanted to mention. Stephen Crummy in the comments says, "Had a go at us."
Oh no!
Rightly so, I believe. It said, "Suspend your disbelief for androids, almost completely indistinguishable from humans. You can't imagine there being more sophisticated editing software than we have today."
No, it's a simple... Listen, androids, I can see the benefit of. Video editing software has barely improved in the last 10 years. So, I think we've reached a point of entropy with that, and it's never going to get any better.
Let's double down on this.
Yeah.
I honestly think that if you just look at the Boston Dynamics, look what they're doing. I can see the through line from there to a Dolores host. I can't really see how we're going to get to a system where you can. Actually, maybe I can. Listen. If it was a system, right? Okay, maybe they can do it. Maybe they can do it. But like circling roughly around Bernard in the video the way they did, and then all of a sudden the computer knows where he is and stuff, and knows what to replace behind him with. I'm sorry, I can't get there. I can't get there.
No, I think Stephen makes a very good point. I will also actually say, in the vein of that, there's a line from Charlotte in this episode where she's like, Ford has all these highfalutin ideas and Baroque, I think she describes them as Baroque ideas about what he wants to do, when 90% of people who come to this park just want something to shoot or have sex with. And I was like, that is how it's gonna go, isn't it? Like we're gonna invent these robots and they're just gonna be like sex and violence robots.
Well, yeah, like that's the thing. Any robot with a human face at the minute is almost exclusively for that purpose, you know what I mean? Not killing, but you know what I mean. I've never seen a robot. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've never seen a robot that looks human-like, which isn't a sex doll for sale.
Yes, yeah. I'll be honest. I'm not that well versed in the sex doll market, but
Well, I saw a clip of a guy talking about his girlfriend who was a sex doll on reputable UK show This Morning. I saw a guy, obviously, it's basically like a rag newspaper as a TV show.
I'm sure Schofield was. Is that Schofield? I can't remember.
Scof, yeah, old Scof himself. Yeah. And Holly Willoughby, but basically they were talking about to this guy, and he had his little robot on there and all, but and looked like a human, not really, but you know what I mean. So I don't really ever see robots out there that have human faces which aren't for sex. So I don't really know.
No, I
don't really know how that's going to happen. I can't imagine Boston Dynamics just all of a sudden releasing a robot that can jump over things with a human face. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, we're gonna make this dog robot that's for carrying shit in the army, but we're actually gonna make it look like a dog. Like that would be That would be very upsetting.
That would be weird. Okay, there we go, guys. Thanks very much for listening. We're on to the final episode of Season 1 next week. I cannot wait to have a chat about it. I'm sure we'll also do something to do with the what do you call it? Konrad's Theory Matrix as well. Like we did with the OA. We'll sort of bundle it all together. Looking forward to that as well. It's a big, long episode, so we might not be able to talk about everything in as much detail, but we can try. We can try our darndest.
Sure.
A lot of the stuff that happens in season finales anyway is sort of all like sort of 20 minutes can be talked about in one go sort of thing as well.
Yeah.
But we'll get there. Thanks very much, guys. If you want to support the podcast, there's links in the description. If you want to follow us on YouTube, we are The Culture Cave. On audio apps, we are the best... No, we're not the best movie podcast ever, but do follow that one as well, because that's really good. We're the After Dark podcast. Thanks very much, guys. Give the video a like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening. The After Dark podcast has been a Culture Cave production. Please subscribe on audio apps as well as on YouTube at The Culture Cave. Join us next week as Konrad journeys further into the unknown.